Afternoon, everyone. I know I am the last person between yourselves and maybe a little shandy afterwards. Great story from Gascoyne. For full disclosure, I'm actually a non-executive director of Ramelius. So that's clearly there's a bit of a message in there somehow. So yeah, Ramelius has had a fairly busy few months, but I'm actually here to talk about Cygnus. And Cygnus is, and actually just while I'm thinking about it, you just had a Kiwi present before. I'm a Kiwi. We don't cheat in cricket, and you've got the rugby here, and so you'll get a lesson on how to follow around an All Black team. So now that I've endeared you to myself, let's talk about Cygnus. This company actually got me out of semi-retirement. This was something. I was quite happy to go work on my golf handicap for a period of time after running a company called Mincor Resources, which when I joined, I think we were about a 60 million market cap, and when I left, I think it was about 1.1 billion. And it's actually, it's a similar thread to the Cygnus story. When you have a look at the people and the major shareholders that are behind this company, you've got Steve Parsons, who everyone will know with Bellevue, and Mike Naylor. They were both founders of Bellevue, took it from 8 million to what's about 1.6 billion today. There's also a strong Ramelius flavour with myself and Mike Bohm, and we also both work together at Mincor. So what you're seeing there is people that are experienced in making money for shareholders, but taking a company from exploration into development and then ultimately into production. Now, I am going to get to some slides, but I like to give a few messages up front, and if you've got anything really technical, I'm happy to talk to you afterwards when we have a drink. But CY5 was a very early mover into James Bay, Quebec. Okay, and James Bay, Quebec I see it as the new Pilbara of North America. It's decades behind where Pilbara is in terms of lithium exploration, but we know there is an absolute abundance of lithium sitting at surface in James Bay, and we were an early mover. We came not that long after Patriot and Winsome, and obviously Patriot gets a lot of the news flow with their amazing intersections. But we're 12 months in, and when you see the progress that we've made in 12 months, I think you'll walk away pretty impressed. Now, our projects, we have key criteria in when we've acquired our projects, and when you're in a remote environment, you want to have access to infrastructure. There's plenty of good deposits out there, but they can't get out for infrastructure. You want to have the approval of the First Nations group. We've got the lowest category required in terms of approval process. We're on greenstone belts. So when you think of greenstone belts, think of Liontown. So Liontown's on a greenstone belt. You've got Bellevue around the corner and Cosmos also around the corner. It's very similar geology up there in James Bay. It was very much a gold exploration play, but now it's all about lithium. And we're right next to hydropower, so I'm sure you Victorians suffer probably some of the highest power prices, is it, in Australia? Well, Quebec is probably one of the cheapest. Maybe Quebec could host a Commonwealth Games, don't know. Let's not go there. We're also about to publish a resource, which Paul touched upon as well. And when I go through that resource, you'll see, and when we announce it, that it has had the least amount of drilling to get a resource in 12 months, which really just shows the opportunity. When you see the size compared to its peers, we've put in about a third of what other companies have drilled, which just shows huge opportunity for upside. We know we've got lithium there. It's just how much. We have the rigs. We've got the crews. It's a bit similar to Western Australia. Now rigs and crews are starting to become a little bit more tight and difficult to find, but we've got a track record. We had the second most rigs for an ASX listed company in the winter drill program. So it's always best to drill in winter in Quebec. Our ground is surrounded by majors. It's surrounded by companies. We've got ground right next to Patriot's Corvette. We've got Allchem's project, James Bay. And I am going to show you these slides, but I'm purposely not putting them up, so you listen to the words that I have to say. But I'll also show you just a little project that we've got in Western Australia. And if you're up late at night and you can't sleep and you're buying something online, think of this as the free steak knives that you get. This is something that we have stumbled across in Western Australia in the rare earth space with a separate team, nothing to do with our lithium exploration, but something that we've been working on quietly in the background, and I want to touch upon that. And as Paul said, it is very much a Newsflow 12 months coming up. So for a free beer, if anyone can tell me why is this image really important? And I'll give you a hint, it's about what it doesn't show. Bingo. So it doesn't show a lake, okay? And so that, whilst there are plenty of lakes in Quebec, what that means, it's just a little bit easier when it comes to permitting. So this is our Pontax deposit. This is where the resource will come from. You can see a little geologist there in the orange in the bottom right, sitting there just to give you a little bit of scale. So you get this outcropping whaleback and then it goes undercover. We have only just scratched that surface. And when we come out with the resource, you'll see that we've really only touched about 3% of the greenstone belt. So putting all of this into context in terms of where we're located, we've ensured that really it's three main projects that we're concentrating on. Pontax, Sakami up to the north there, which is near Corvette, and also Eau Claire. They're our three projects. There's only two major highways in northern Quebec. The one that goes north-south, so top to bottom there, and the one that goes heading over towards Corvette. And then there's a few little all-season minor roads in the area. So it's very important that you're close to that infrastructure. Pontax is 30 kilometres as a crow flies from Allchem's James Bay. That's got 40 million tonnes of resource. They're drilling there at the moment. We know that because we share a camp with them, which is already there, so we don't have to build a camp. And I think that'll probably grow to 80 million tonnes plus, but that is not a geological exploration target. I'm not a geologist, so I can't go to jail for breaching JORC code, so I'm not. So take that with a pinch of salt, but I know that they are looking to build that. We've got projects that Siona have got right near to us, so we're in a great spot. Pontax, I'll talk about shortly in a little bit more detail. Coverage at the moment, just recently initiated on us at Canaccord, Shaw and Partners, and Euroz Hartleys. Funnily enough, they've all got buys on us. You'd hope that if they're going to launch research on an exploration company, they wouldn't have a sell, would you? So, but I think if you had all of these three assets sitting in three separate ASX-listed vehicles, the sum of those market capitalisations would be far greater than what the sum of the total Cygnus is as we sit here today. But you can see that Steve Parsons is one of the major shareholders. And everyone who's involved in the board and the management team have actually put in cash into this business. When I commenced back in February as managing director, I put in hard cash as well. I won't go through the mugshots, but it's very much that Bellevue, Ramelius, Mincor DNA. So Pontax Central, it's your typical type of stacked pegmatite. In a lot of circumstances, very similar. You might remember Kidman Resources and the Mount Holland deposit. I was actually a director of Kidman Resources for many years, and if we just talk about this, the state of the market at the moment, I can tell you car makers and battery makers are completely different to when I was involved with Kidman. So at Kidman, we cut the first offtake deal with Tesla, you might recall, and also LG Chem and Mitsui. We were summoned to Germany by Volkswagen, and in their, I better not say it, in their typical way of that country, they told us what we should do and how we should do it. I can tell you today, the OEMs, car makers and battery makers are all integrated into resource projects. They've got resource professionals. There's no longer a lecture. They will do anything they can to help get supply into the market, and especially in North America, and as long as it's ex-China is the view that a lot of those are taking. And Canada doesn't exactly have the best relationship with China. You might have seen the President get lectured not that long ago on the news, and there is no Chinese investment for lithium in Canada. Now, getting back to Pontax, is a typical stacked pegmatite. Those are typical good grade intersections, and as I said, we'll come out with the resource very quickly. We do put out cross sections and long sections, so this is a long section for people to have a look at if you're inclined to go through the geology. The simple message here is you know, just on that 700 metre window, and we've got 44 kilometres to explore on this greenstone belt, but just on 700 metres, you could easily put an open pit just around what we've got in front of us. And of course, you wouldn't have a geology site if it wasn't open in every single direction. I don't think I've ever seen a geology slide that's not open in every single direction. We don't point up into the sky because I don't believe there's any lithium in the sky, but this is truly, truly open. A few action shots just to show that how active that we are in Quebec. We have run a winter drill program. As I said earlier, that's the best time to drill. We've used some modern geophysical techniques. One of those is LiDAR, which is more about photography. What that shows you in Quebec, especially where we are, that the pegmatites go beneath cover and moss and things like that. And so we tested that out, and you can see in that bottom centre image, we've pulled back a bit of moss and exposed the pegmatite sitting there that wouldn't be discovered if you walked on top of it. Couple more action shots. Bottom left is the ice road, so you generally cut an ice road in winter. We use the First Nations group, and these guys are exceptionally sophisticated. They actually own their own airline, and they are all about battery metals into Quebec. There is amazing support there. Some pretty funky equipment as well, and if anyone wants to go up there in winter, it's about minus 35, minus 40 degrees. So the Quebecians are very much used to it. The Quebecians are probably similar to us people in WA. You know, we're always wanting to secede from the rest of Australia. The Quebecians are French Canadians. They don't like the French. They don't like the Canadians. They only like French Canadians. So it's an interesting place to work. We have forged some really strong partnerships in country. You know, it's no point us going in as an Australian telling them we know what we're doing. We need to have partnerships. Especially in Quebec. So we have one of the largest miners, Cisco Development. They're a shareholder of ours, and we were able to cut a deal with them for the next project that I'm going to talk about, and also a group called Canadian Mining House, who are the largest landholder in James Bay, Quebec. And I think as we sit here today, we are now the largest landholder in James Bay from an ASX company perspective. This is an image of Pontax, and the green that you can see there is the greenstone belt, and you can see that it wraps around what is commonly known as a pluton from Allkem round to our Pontax site. And so we dominate the south, and Allkem has the north. Spattered in between our little red tenements is also Patriot Metals, who are also doing some work right next to us at Pontax. So we're surrounded again. You can see the main highway, and we've got large deposits nearby. Now, the second project I want to talk about that we purchased is All Clear. And this is really exciting. There's no question that there's lithium there. We've found it in drill core that was actually accidentally intersected by a gold explorer 20 years ago, and they didn't even know they had it. We found it, and we were just recently walking off one of the tracks, and we stumble across spodumene boulders sitting there. So we know we've got lithium in this space. We started with 25 square kilometres, and then with a Cisco, and then we bulked up that greenstone belt by buying it off Canadian Mining House. So we've now got over 400 square kilometres. All-weather road, and the right category for First Nations, power coming through. What's really exciting about this is there's no lithium exploration being completed. So when we purchased it off of Cisco, we found in their photography these pegmatites, and we thought, geez, they look like the spodumene bearing. And our chief geologist hopped in a skidoo, 4 hours in the snow, dug 5 foot under snow, found the drill core in the storage, then found the actual pegmatite, and guess what? It was spodumene bearing. Cisco, the big company, has already let go of 2 projects that they didn't realise they had. Their names are Patriot. Okay, so the Corvette deposit, they had that ground. They also had the Nemaska deposit called Wabuchi, which is now 50 million tonnes of lithium. And now we've managed to find some ground, and they didn't even realise that they had these pegmatites that were mineralised. So that's pretty exciting. And we also then did some aerial photography, and lo and behold, there's 67 outcropping pegmatites. Now, not every pegmatite has lithium, so be very clear. Not all of them are mineralised. But we've got sitting there where nobody has landed, and we're just waiting on the helicopter to finish fighting the fires at the moment, a 1.6 kilometre outcropping pegmatite. We've got 67 of these. We've got spodumene boulders, we've got accidental intersections. I like our chances of finding some significant lithium in this space. And then finally, our third project, Sakami. Again, this Canadian mining house, being a shareholder of ours, we're approached by maybe companies on the slide and also some very large corporates who have done some big exploration deals in Quebec. They approached us and said, do you want to buy it? This is on the same greenstone belt as Corvette, the Patriot deposit. So it's not to the south or north in moose pasture, because let me tell you, there's a lot of deals being done in James Bay which are moose pasture. We've looked at 60 and said no to 57 of them. This is on the same greenstone belt. It's right next to Winsome's Cansett discovery. It's 40 k's away from Corvette. Never had any lithium exploration. So we just did some, so of course we took it. We just did some aerial photography, and lo and behold, there's about 55 outcrops from some very average digital imagery that we've got. So we're going to land the helicopter on those and start sampling those very shortly as well. So then finally, because I'm going to be running out of time, this is the steak knives comment that I said earlier before. So Cygnus has significant land holding in Western Australia. The Ben Cubbon project is, we've got 800 square kilometres of land, and we were following up a magnetic high, and the assays that we got back had these elevated rare earths. And, you know, rare earths, it's an interesting area, and there's a lot of rare earth announcements, but it had elevated rare earths, so we sent it back for a rare earth assay, and there we go, we get 23 metres at 1800 trio. So to put that into perspective, anything over 1000 trio is really good. We got 34 metres at 1200, including 4 metres at 2100. And what's really important that you look for is the level of embryo. So that's the magnets that you'll ultimately get out of the rare earths. Anything over 20% is good, and we were getting up to 34%. And this is all sitting in clay 4 metres from surface, and we've got 2.3 kilometres of strike, and we go for 800 kilometres, and we haven't even tested a long strike. So we have done a little bit of work, and we're waiting on the assays. That is sitting there as an added bonus, and at some stage we'll need to make a decision what we do with that asset, because our focus is still very much lithium in James Bay. And around us, which gives us encouragement that we are in the right area, that Rio Tinto and IGO have taken ground specifically to look for rare earths. So we think we're in the right spot. It's farmland, so it's already been disturbed. So from an Indigenous heritage perspective, it's very good. So Newsflow, lots of Newsflow coming up. We'll have the summer exploration program. Got the drill rigs, got the people, we know we've got lithium, we just need to find it. We've been there for 12 months and we've already got a mineral resource about to come out. There's a saying that I use, which I won't use publicly here because it's a little bit naughty, but we're not up there to knit quilts, okay? We're up there to drill hard. That's the history of Bellevue. Drilled really hard to find a decent deposit. That's the history also of Mincor, was a little gold operation, and we drilled hard and made the discovery of Cassini. So that's what we're there to do. We're all motivated. We're all shareholders. We've all put cash in, so we're pretty aligned with our shareholders, and so happy to take any questions afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thanks.